know they desperately want Trump gone, and I know that they desperately want it codified that Trump cannot run again, because make no mistake, they remain scared to death of you, and they remain scared to death of Trump. Trump 75 million, 80 million votes. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going anywhere. Even if Trump does, you're not. They can't separate you from Trump. And more importantly, they can't separate you from the ideas. They can't separate you from MAGA. They can't separate you from Make America Great Again, which I think remains one of our big campaign strengths going forward. They believe that they can destroy this bond that exists between you and Trump if they somehow make Trump look bad, make Trump look like a reprobate, embarrass you about Trump. They can't do it because you came before Trump.
You came before Trump. Here we are, folks. I hope you enjoyed that opener, because I found that little video last night in the middle of the night when I couldn't get to sleep. And, you know, yes, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with whatever happens. As I told you on Thursday's show, I got to think, what's today? My gosh, we've been in a countdown to this day, more in 2024. And, you know, here we are. There's my beautiful producer wife that I'm going to take off stage real quick. But here we are. Election day. Okay, I hope that for those of you who are joining us, and I'm anxiously anticipated, as you see in the title of the show today, that I will see a screen with Mr. Darren Bailey. He is en route. He's going to be doing the election returns for Chicago Fox 32 tonight. So I'm anticipating he's on his way. He's traveling. I've sent him a text message. I've given him everything he needs to jump on. So hopefully he's able to do that. Ryan is not going to be with us today. He's helping his dear old dad out. He's having some connectivity problems. He wants to stream the Bongino show tonight. And Ryan, I guess Ryan's going to be doing something tonight with the Ryan Mack show. So every now and then you need to take a day off. And what better day to do that than election day? So as I said, I hope that I don't have to tell you guys this. We are still not at the end of it. We've got 3 hours. Now they only have 2 hours on the East Coast, 3 hours here. You got to realize that it's the election polls close at 7:00, but it's not always 7:00 where you live or I live. So just remember that there's still time to get out. Get out. If you know of somebody that isn't voting, get them out there, especially you brothers in arms, my friends who are men. Men, we need you. If you haven't voted for any reason, take yourself to the voting booth right now. If you have a problem knowing where that's at, there are plenty of resources online. Heck, come into the chat, into the comments section. I'll troubleshoot it right here, right now. I don't care where you live at. But your time is running out when it comes to the East Coast. 3 hours still here in Central Time. Mountain's got 4 hours, obviously 5 hours then for Pacific Time. But as I said with the opener, Rush Limbaugh, I mentioned his name on Thursday's show. And you know, there's nobody better at having a conversation with an audience that he doesn't even, it's not a live audience. He doesn't see them. He did a little bit of TV. He dabbled in that a little bit. But for the most part, Rush was behind the golden microphone at the EIB studio, spending countless hours. I can't even imagine the amount of research that man did to compile his daily show. 3 hours every day. It's just, it's mind-boggling. And yet, that's the voice of reason we need to hear. I do appreciate Dan Bongino. I do appreciate Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, and so many others, Charlie Kirk, Glenn Beck, and the list goes on and on. But something about Rush that really spoke to my heart. I followed him for almost, I'll tell you, when he came on the air in 1988 doing his show syndicated throughout the nation, I was right there with him covering those years. Bill Clinton, obviously the amount of fodder he had with them. I did not mention Joe Rogan. I got to mention Joe. Obviously, Joe Rogan's endorsement of Trump last night, I believe, is going to be the little extra push we need to get men to go out there, because a lot of people who listen to Joe Rogan tend to be libertarian, but not only libertarian, independent thinkers. And that little push with interviewing Elon last night, I think was very special. And I know, Joe Rogan, man, what does he do? 8 to 10 million, some people say 13 million subscribers to his Joe Rogan Experience. And he has a conversation with people. And the reason I'm bringing that up about Rush is that very thing. I mentioned on Thursday of last week, I just want to have conversations. My wife and I had an opportunity last night, and many of you probably participated in this corporate time of prayer at 6:00 last night to pray for our nation. We sometimes forget about that this nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. This Constitution over my shoulder mentions that we are endowed by our Creator. Who is our Creator? Everybody knows who the Creator is. That's God. There's no other Creator. And he gives us his rights, the rights that we have. But we had this opportunity of corporate worship, and I hope you had an opportunity to pray somewhere, whether it was at a church or whether it was at home or wherever, in your car, at 6:00 last night, because it is powerful to know that this election isn't the end of the world. This election is the beginning of something big. And I truly believe that. Whomever wins, God is on his throne. There is no other God. No matter how man tries to manifest himself or what man tries to do, ultimately, if you choose not to honor God, if you refuse to accept what God has for us, he's willing to give you that. But that time last night was an opportunity to call upon heaven, to call upon the angels, to protect those who are elected officials, to convert, to have that ability for a metanoia, converting hearts and minds, to come back to the principles that our nation was founded on. Not based on skin color, race, gender, personality, but on true policy, on truth, on what our foundational principles are as people, as human beings. We've got to put aside all of the crazy that has gone on. And I'm hopeful today that Trump, and no secrets, I'm a delegate for Trump. I've been on the Trump bandwagon as a J6 with Trump. I put this out on my Facebook. You can go out to the DPB show or to David Paul Blumenshine, my personal Facebook page, and look at that picture of Trump on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is shortly after he was shot and he hit the deck, right? And he's bleeding and he has his hands on the ground. And I put a comment in there around that picture. What more do you want this man to do? What more can he do? Now, of course, I have a detractor that wants to tell me all the litany of list of things that, the talking points of the radical left, because they're never going to get beyond their Trump derangement syndrome, for the most part. There are those who have woken up. And I'm not talking about the wokies. I'm talking about waking up. Their eyes are open. They have been convicted by the power of the Holy Spirit. They want the truth. They want to know, what we stand for as a people. It is outlined in our Constitution. Fascinating thing. And I think I've got the video and I want to share it with you. It's Robert Kennedy, and he is just saying some pretty amazing things as far as I think what most of us are feeling. What he's doing is he's trying to encourage people. He's trying to encourage people to really dig deep and to realize what this election is about. Of course, I'm going to have to take a second because I'm looking down at my little notes here and my screen but this. Oh, hold on, make sure I got him on. Hold on, let me make sure I got him on there. Add him to the stage. There he goes. There he is. Now I can jump back up there and get him. But this takes a couple minutes. But I want to play this because this is powerful. So this is what Robert F. Kennedy says. Yesterday he put this video out. And I'm going to play the whole thing because it's long, but it's worth it. Let's hear what Robert has to say.
Hey, everybody. A lot of people are asking me if they live in a red state or a blue state, should they still be voting for me? What about swing states? The answer is easy. No. No matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump. And let me tell you why. That's the only way that we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill the mission that motivated my campaign. Right now, free speech is under withering and relentless attack in America and across the globe. But at least we still have enough of it here that you can watch this video. We can still run an opposition political campaign. Well, in a lot of countries, you can't do that anymore because the state now controls the media. The state censors the internet. Brazil just banned Twitter because Elon Musk refused to censor user speech. Kamala Harris says that Musk better behave himself or he will, quote, lose his
privileges and it should be taken down. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
She thinks, and the Democratic establishment thinks, that free speech is a privilege. Well, you know, and I know that it's a right. And if Kamala Harris is elected, the powers behind her will quash that right. They're already halfway there. It will be too late by 2028. Once we're in the grips of totalitarianism, we're not going to be able to vote our way out of it. This is our last chance to stop them. After long conversations with President Trump and his team and his family, I know that he is fully convinced of this priority. He sees the censorship machine for what it is. Remember, he was kicked off Twitter back in 2021, and he has experienced directly how government agencies are being weaponized to destroy the government's political opponents. He's going to be relying on me to help clean up that corruption, and that's why I'm relying on my supporters like you to help him return to the White House. As you know, this could be a very close election. A disputed election result would be a disaster for our divided nation. President Trump needs to win in a landslide, both in the Electoral College and in the popular vote. He can't do that unless my supporters join him. So look at the big picture. We have to unify. We have to overthrow the entrenched elites who are now ruining our country. So let's get Donald Trump elected on November 5th so that we can restore our Constitution, so that we can revive the middle class, so that we can rescue our democracy, end censorship and surveillance, unravel the war machine, protect children's health, and make America healthy again.
Make America healthy again. There's so many things that, and I know that was a little long, but I definitely want to kind of unpack what he had to say there because it's powerful, right? It's powerful. The censorship. I mean, we are hey, thanks Steve. Thanks for jumping on, man. Robert F. Kennedy. I mean, come on, folks. This is the Kennedy dynasty, the Kennedy, the royalty of the Kennedy family. And everything I knew about the Kennedys growing up, just staunch Democrats who love their country. I do believe that. I'm not taking that away from the Kennedy family, but to have somebody like Robert Kennedy get behind Trump and then go out and make a video encouraging his voters, because unfortunately, there are states that did not remove him from the ballot. My home state of Illinois being one of them, unfortunately. And just giving that appeal to people, that plea to to make sure that you're not casting a vote for a candidate that basically has already withdrawn from the race and put his support behind Donald J. Trump. But that censorship thing, that's where we're at. Somebody said, do you fear if Kamala were to win that the DPB show would lose traction on X? And I said, well, no, I don't fear anything. I shared with you already. God is on his throne. Jesus Christ is Lord of all. They can't change that. And they can't change what I do here, whether it's my radio show or being a part of radio programs, whether it's the podcast here. I know Darren, and I can only imagine, as I said, Darren is supposed to jump on, and I'm hopeful, but this man has been laying it out there on the line. He's back farming. They just finished up in the fields. Chicago, Fox News, Chicago, Channel 32, called him up and asked if he'd drive up to Chicago from Effingham, basically is where he lives, Xena, Illinois, and if he would be part of their election returns live tonight in the Chicagoland area from 7 to 10. So I know Darren's in transit. I can't imagine what he's thinking, because Darren, I don't know if Darren, well, I know Darren has never done a 3-hour podcast. We've had some good fodder on the DPB show, and we've gone fairly long. I know he's gone on his own personal Facebook page. He's done probably 20, 30 minutes of a Facebook Live, but 3 hours of doing election returns, I can only imagine. And I don't know what that kind of looks like. I'm actually going to tune in to Fox News Channel 32 to see what happens. So, but people like Darren, who have a voice, a resounding voice, and I believe that the work that has been done, as Rush Limbaugh alluded to, the work that's been done to create a movement, it's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Darren Bailey. It's about the people. It's about you and me and what we have seen with our own eyes. When I recall the time out in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, I was telling the story today to some poll watchers who I had not met. And they, when people sometimes meet me, and especially if they're conservative people and they know my story, because they've heard it on the radio or they heard it on a podcast, their eyes just light up, because they want to hear. They want to hear what I witnessed with my very own eyes, and so many others. But this awakening of people is real. That video that I played at the beginning of the show with the boat parades, that's still going on. I know, standing today at Illinois State University's campus, that's where I did my poll watching. Well, let me back up, because I think it's important. Hey, Bob from Berwyn. Hey, DPB, out poll watching, 17 poll places, 9 wards, 27 precincts. I got my work cut out for me for sure. Thank you, Bob. You are, Berwyn Bob and I roomed together with Paul and another friend of ours up at the RNC convention. And you talk about guys who literally are not the front of facing people of the campaign for Trump. They're the guys out there, like Bob just said, laying the foundation. They're down there just working in the trenches, just stomping like I was trying to get my 10 commandments Cecil B. DeMille, Moses, down, just stomping straw into mortar, into a bonding agent. That's what people like Bob are about. And I started telling about the poll watching, but here in my own county, I have to convict myself that it's easy to say, why me? Or, gosh, can somebody else do that? And this morning, about 4:30, Chad Burke, and you guys know Chad, he's running for county board here in Central Illinois, specifically McLean County. He's running for county board District 5. So obviously he's got a full day of his own because he's a candidate on the ballot. But Chad and I went out at 4:30 this morning. We divided up the polling places and we went out to put signs out. That's something that's done during election day, where signs for the candidates are put out. And so Chad and I started very early. So I am obviously feeling energized because of what lies ahead. But I had an opportunity to go to every polling place. So then I went in and checked in with some of the polling places just to get a feel of the numbers. And what was something that stood out? I was seeing people that had not voted before. We call them unreliable voters. People who had never even registered are coming out. They're finally seeing, I believe, as I was sharing with you, to see what I see, to see what I've seen. And that was evidenced when you see hundreds, if not thousands, of students standing in line, waiting to cast their ballots. Now, a little snafu at the Bone Student Center on Illinois State University's campus, where the election is taking place for that precinct 8 in McLean County, normal 8 and normal 30. They had one tabulator. They brought in a second as I was leaving in order to prepare myself for today's show, but they got 2 tabulators in there. But those kids weren't complaining. That line was moving like one of the most famous rides at Disneyland. You're always saying, wow, am I ever going to get to the ride? But these kids were patient, and it really did my heart good. And I don't know who they're voting for. I don't care. I'm glad that they were there. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, and this is where I was going with that, I was like, geez, DPB, where are you going with this long story? I hope I am not wearing you guys out, because I'm wearing myself out. And it's not, when I don't have Brian here and Darren hasn't jumped on yet, it's me. This is who you have today. Maybe I get Mrs. Producer on there. But here's where I wanted to go with that. Those people in that auditorium of the Bone Student Center at Illinois State University, they are the future of this country. They are the young people who are going to basically be the generation that inherits everything that's decided today in this election. Now, do I believe, once again, that the world, the end of the world as we know it is over? No, but are things going to change? Yes. Either way, they're going to change. Some believe, and I do believe, if Harris wins out this election, which I don't believe she's going to, she is going to totally weaponize everything about this country, including the agencies that control free speech, which right here in our Constitution, the First Amendment, if we don't have that, we don't have a country. And we know that our country's at risk because of the policies that have been put in place and the executive orders that were overturned when Biden-Harris took over the White House. We know that they've created a pathway to a world that I believe is not sustainable. Yet, that's what we face. Now, on the other hand, come tomorrow, when we wake up and we realize that it looks like that President Donald J. Trump is going to be the next president, the 47th president of the United States. we now have another task. Robert F. Kennedy was talking about it. What have we done over the past 3.5 years? And I actually believe over the last 12 out of the last 16 years to this country, the division that's been created, the craziness, the conversations. And let me tell you what I witnessed. I didn't see any of that craziness on campus today. I didn't see fighting. I didn't see rude comments. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but for the most part, these were young kids, roughly between 17 and 25. Maybe some people are a little older students there. They were just making their way through life, but yet they made their way through the rain today, because we're getting a lot of rain in central Illinois. I don't know where you're from or where you reside, but we're getting a lot of rain. So they had to brave the rain and get out and get to the polling place. And so I know that there is going to be a need. And I do believe that there's going to be some pushback. I do believe that Trump derangement syndrome for some people will just escalate to a level of mental illness that is hard to come back from. And I want to be an instrument of peace when it comes to that. And I still do. I mean, once again, what unites us is so much greater than what divides us. And I truly believe at the heart of every person, now, granted, I do believe that we have accelerated mental illness at a rate that's unsustainable too, as Robert F. Kennedy speaks about. When it comes to health, we need to make America healthy again. How we consume, or what we consume dietarily, is killing our nation. We see that. We can see that with our own eyes. We're not on a trajectory of optimum health. We know what Big Pharma is doing. I mean, it is out there. We all live through COVID now. They never want to release the safety data on these vaccines. We know what we're up against. These are things that have to change. And when they are changing, we're going to have to be there to support people. My wife had just put up there, as a recently retired public school teacher of 35 years, I can attest to the division started to show in 2009. Exactly. And that, once again, that's because so many people, rather than policy, rather than what's good for people, we got into the politics of division, dividing people on race, color, religion, gender, personality. We stopped having conversations. Now, there's a reason why Kamala Harris wants to censor X and Elon Musk, and it's very evident why she wants to do that, because if anybody has been exposed to this thing, it's Kamala, and she's been drastically exposed. In fact, to a point where I don't know how she comes out of this election and she can weather the exposure that she has had. I have the Elon clip where they talk about this, and I'm going to grab it real quick. This was another one, and it's actually not the Elon clip. It's this clip from Rachel, and I want to blow that up a little bit here and get it on the screen. Here's Rachel Maddow giving her opinion of what we heard from a censorship standpoint.
Trump doesn't win, the Defense Department and NASA are going to need a new arrangement for all their rockets and for all the multi-billion-dollar contracts Elon Musk's companies have with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is going to have to either, unwind from all of those contracts, or Elon Musk's companies are going to have to unwind from him. This is an untenable reality in national security terms. Now that we know what we know about Elon Musk. But even if Trump doesn't win, the Defense Department and NASA are going to need a new arrangement for all rockets and Elon Musk's companies have with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is going to have to either, unwind from all of those contracts, or Elon Musk's companies are going to have to unwind from him. This is an untenable reality in national security terms. Now that we know what we know about Elon Musk. But even if Trump doesn't win, the Defense Department and NASA are going to need a new arrangement for all their rockets and for all the multi-billion-dollar.
I'm sorry, I had to hit that a couple times because I got lost and one of my screens popped up and I had to get rid of it. But I mean, those words, I'm glad that it kind of ran a couple times because that is bizarro to hear people speak in this manner of going after. I mean, here the election hasn't even ended yet, right? And this is how they start setting the stage. So I don't know about you. There's a lot of crazy things going out there. As I began to say earlier, when Trump wins and we wake up tomorrow to a President Trump for the 47th president of the United States, there are going to be things happening. And this is why we need to be on our toes. We need to be on guard. Do I believe it can get scary in some places? Yes. But really, truly, somebody shared this with me today. I was putting out some of those signs, as I told you about, at the polling places this morning. And in fact, the beautiful thing about it is to have a patriot who lives across the street from a polling place, especially in a predominantly Democrat district, right? And I was putting these signs up, and the gentleman saw me. He's got a Ring doorbell and saw me out there, so he came out. And one of the things that he shared with me was really interesting. Back in 2020, he put signs out in his yard that said Trump, and he had to replace them over and over and over and over again. He had the same sign I put in his yard probably, a month ago with a little flag on it next to another candidate. And I added some additional signs there today and then put some more Trump signs in his yard. He said, I've noticed something different about this year. I believe that some of those people who were so adamant about Trump in 2020 have come to see the light, have opened their eyes. And I do believe that. Unfortunately, as Robert Kennedy talked about, and I've shared with you guys many times over, there are so many people entrenched. They are part of the blob. They are part of the establishment. They are a part of this government bureaucracy that has blown up to the size that I know I've used it once, I'll use it twice and maybe 3 times. It is not sustainable. It doesn't work. That is why somebody like Elon's going to come alongside President Trump and cut some of the waste that's out there, because we cannot sustain our country based on borrowed money. And that's the reality of it. Yes, Bob, it's raining so hard here in studio, I can hear it pelting the roof as we speak. So there must be a big system moving in, but don't let that deter you from getting out to the polls. There is still time. Let me check the old Timex watch here. Actually, it's a G-Shock Casio. It's 4:30. There's still 2.5 hours. Call people. Don't stop dialing. I've sent a couple texts out to Darren, and it's unfortunate when you have a guest that you hope is going to be here, but that doesn't take away the fact that I know Darren would be here. It's probably got lost in the shuffle, or he is, he's got a lot on his plate right now, getting up and doing a 3-hour show. So unless he jumps on here in the next 25 minutes, I'm not going to do a very long show today, just because I've still got to get out to some polling places, get some tapes pulled at a couple precincts. I want to go back to the Illinois State University campus to see if things died down a little bit there with the amount of people that were trying to get through the electoral process, to see if that's moved a little quicker. I do want to get to the watch party for my county, because I happen to be on the board in my county as a board member of the McLean County Republican Party. I want to go to the watch party. I want to sit back and watch the returns. I'm very interested, because what I witnessed out there on the streets is that there are a lot of people that showed up to vote. Maybe they're going for Harris Biden. Maybe they're going for Trump. But that's why we have elections. Now, when it comes to all the other things, the craziness that we're hearing about machines failing, voting machines, paper ballots getting jammed, things going offline. Now Dinesh D'Souza just put out a documentary the other day where he talks about just the utter disregard for our process. There is no chain of custody when it comes to the electoral process in our nation. Too many people have access to the ballots. Too many ballots can be duplicated. There are basically there's no law that prevents somebody from duplicating a ballot, which to me is mind-boggling. And if there were statutes, we have a hard time following it, because once again, we know what we're up against. We're up against that machine, that blob, that so many people, once again, that's where some of the mental illness comes in. People will lose their jobs. No, they won't be marched off to concentration camps as Kamala would like you to believe. And JB Pritzker, I've got a video. I'm not even going to share it. I was listening to that guy, and I can't bring myself. I'd really love to sit across from him, but how do you have a conversation with a person that to your face sits there and just lies? Lies. I'd love it if JB Pritzker went on Joe Rogan's show. It's hard to lie against Joe Rogan. He's not going to let you do that. But these people won't go on Joe Rogan's show. They don't have what it takes, because they know they will be uncovered. Meaning what it takes is deep down inside of them, they know that somewhere deep down inside them, I do believe that they know they're lying to others. But more importantly, they're lying to themselves. I got rid of my little menu down here. See, I've got so many things going on. There it is. I got another video that I know I want to share with you. This is usually the great time and this is from Eric Doherty. And I don't know if you guys are following this. Eric Doherty is somebody to follow on X. If you can, definitely get out there, follow him. But this is what Eric has to say. I have this particular post pulled up of his. There it is right there. The Florida GOP is now nearing 1.2 million lead. And this is all based on early voting and in-person voting. In the battleground states, there's a picture of some of the breakdown of where things are at. I do have my Mrs. Producers letting me know that election fraud is a felony. Unfortunately, getting election fraud to be prosecuted, it's no brainer to prosecute Trump and indict Trump. You have to move heaven and earth to prosecute and to enforce election fraud. And election fraud happens so rapidly. But this is the screen I wanted to share with you. The screen's jumping around on me. I can get back to it here. And if it will stop when I get there. Oh, that's because Eric Doherty is alive and he's looking at the exit polls. So let's take a look at this because you guys are probably wanting to see some meat on the bone. So let me make sure you guys are seeing this like I'm seeing this. Okay, you are. Good. All right. So Eric Doherty 2 minutes ago, Pennsylvania electorate is now 4 points more white versus black than 2020. This is some of the substance. NBC exit poll support for deporting illegal aliens is now higher than in 2016. Just in 30K ballots must be recounted in Milwaukee. That's from CNN. 30,000 ballots. Wow. Just in CNN exit poll finds Trump voters nearly 3-1 care about change. Then there's some exit polls here from Fox News. Wrong track. 70%, right track, 30%. This is, are we on the right track or are we on the wrong track? Okay. There's a whole host of out there, and my wife is sending me the different Moses producers sending me all the incidences of fraud that are out there, and they're numerous. Too many to count, but I'll just give you a brief one. Let me exit the screen. But the NBC News was compelled to air an ad from President Donald Trump on Sunday evening in response to Kamala Harris's controversial appearance on Saturday night. There's a equal time is part of the process, the electoral process. You have to grant equal time. It was a violation of the Federal Communications Commission, so they ended up having to air his commercial. But the list is going on. We'll share this in the comment section. But let me get back to the Eric Doherty here, because this is, I think, good stuff here in these early exit polls. NBC finds democracy as a top issue. New exit poll: who do you trust in immigration? Trump over Kamala, 53-46. Did the wrong track, right track. That's a multiple share, but let's see if anything else is going on. I'm coming to assume these exit polls are wrong. Either that or all the voters pissed about the status quo are Harris voters. For now, I am tempering. APP, vote gas. And let me be clear. I just want to make sure, I want to jump back on the screen here so I can tell you this. What you're going to see right out of the gate here in the next, as soon as the polls close on the Eastern Time, Central Time, realize these exit polling is just as bad as the polling of itself. They are going to try to move to leverage what's happening on the West Coast, because you have polls closing, as we brought up at the beginning of the show, at different times with a difference of 4 hours. So they're trying to manipulate the electorate, especially the last minute electorate. And by all means, if you know of anybody that's out there, text them, that's in line to vote. Tell them absolutely under no condition do you get out of line. Vote, vote, vote. But they're going to spin it because this is what they did in 2016. And in 2020, we know what they did. They just stopped counting, right? Because they realized they had been overtaken. So they had to go and manufacture and figure out how to create a victory. Right now, they know going into this thing that they were down exponentially in a lot of states, especially some of the swing states, because they had created an advantage of voter registration, and putting more people into the electoral process. So they knew they were up against a juggernaut. So you're going to see that played out in the exit polling. So don't get caught off guard. But let me get back to what Eric had to say. And this is Eric Doherty, who I follow a lot on X. This is the guy that I would encourage you to go out and follow. good stuff. I got his name from Dan Bongino. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I lean into Dan to get a lot of this content and some of these people because he's connected, right? He's connecting the dots through and through. But you're going to see a lot of talk about a lot of things, and just don't let your heart be troubled. This is all questions asked of people as they're going. They never ask, what exactly who did you vote for, as much as they ask different questions to try to gain an idea of who you might have voted for. That's what these exit polls are all about. But anyhow, for what it's worth, that's where we're at. I do have, I think, a couple more things I want to get out. The corrupt left have always had layers and layers of ways to cheat, but we are on to them now. They are being exposed. That's my beautiful wife. But yeah, no, that's where it's at. I just want to double check here because I had one more thing I needed to share. I think it was from my Maze Moore. This is in a nutshell, says it all about who these folks are. And I believe it's no better depiction of that than Nancy Pelosi. And this is what we're talking about when it comes to corruption and fraud and all that goes with it. Because yes, there's no way they're going to concede. Even if it were a landslide, they're not conceding, because there's no landslide to them, because they're going to manufacture things to make it so it appears that they have won. But here's old Nancy Pelosi, and let's go ahead and watch her. This is election night 2016.
We will, of course, retain the White House with the election of Hillary Clinton. I have on my white and purple colors of the suffragettes in honor of the fact that we have our first woman president, soon to be Hillary Clinton elected president. What do the Russians have on Donald Trump politically, financially?
2018.
And personally. What does Vladimir Putin have on President Trump personally, politically, financially, in any way? What does he have on Donald Trump? I think it's probably financial. I think it's probably financial, either something financial he has on or something on the come. We will, of course, retain the White House.
Like the ability to turn investments into multi-million-dollar portfolios. Nancy, you would be the first one that could tell us. But this is a good way to kind of wrap things up. That video in of itself shares with us what we can expect after the polls close and we wake up tomorrow. They are going to once again be up in arms about everything. Prepare yourself. Folks, I know that you've been listening for the most part to conservative talk, and you've been engaged in the process of what's going on around us. You are prepared. I believe it's a different America that wakes up tomorrow on December or November 6th, 2024. I have so many numbers spinning around in my head right now. I think it's a different America. And I think we are going to take America back. We are going to make America great again. However, we have to be realistic about what we're facing from people like Nancy, who have been espousing this thing. Basically, Trump's illegitimate. That's what they've said over and over again. They try to indict the guy, as I mentioned. What more do you want the man to do? He was shot in the head. He's been crucified over and over again, not only in the courtroom, financially. Charges have been brought against him. Of course, they say, well, of course, because all those things are true. We know none of those things are true. People who should really be brought up on charges and indicted, those people are scot-free. We know that something might be a felony, but it's a matter of getting that into a fair and free and just court. So many people are impacted. Like I said, their livelihoods are on the line. I guess if tomorrow you knew that you were out of a job and your career was over? How would you be responding? It's food for thought. We have outgrown ourselves. Most importantly, we've outgrown God. And that's never a good position to be in. Hey, Jim Snyder says, of course, it will be everybody's fault but their own. Blame everything but Trump for beating them. You know, Jimmy, you once again are a workhorse, somebody that does the job of behind the scenes. And I guess that's how before I end it in prayer, that's how I kind of would like to wrap this up today on the DPB show. Yes, I've been up since 4:30 and it's starting to show. I had a lot of gusto going into the show. Granted, not having Darren here, I lost a little bit of that fever, but I'm sure we'll get him back on. Not having Ryan here, it does take away because I bounce things off of him as I'm working the screens. But let me talk about the people who are out there right now still working the phones, calling people who are working the polls. I mean, even on both sides of the aisle, the election judges, the poll watchers, people who understand what is at stake and what lies ahead. And, you know, I said I wasn't going to play the video, but I'll just comment on what JB had to say here just a little bit ago. You can go out to his Facebook page. I just have to go out there and make sure I post that welcome to the land of make believe. JB Pritzker believes that Trump wants to harm our daughters. He actually even says that. And I don't know what is more harmful to our daughters and our sons than living in a world that has been manufactured to confuse, to distract, to indoctrinate people from the basic precepts of what we are all about. And then to have the audacity as a billionaire to accuse Trump of buddying with his billionaire buddies. I mean, and to think that people actually buy into that. They don't. And I know they don't. And obviously, there's a lot of reasons that JB is still the governor of Illinois, and it has a lot to do with the amount of inactive voters on our electoral rolls through the Illinois State Board of Elections. That's happening in Michigan. It's happening all over. So hopefully, we'll get beyond that too on tomorrow, because the sun will come out tomorrow. I do believe that, and it's going to be a bright, sunny day. So let's go ahead and just call upon our Lord to be with us here in the last couple hours. Lord, Father, Abba, you know us, you see us. We appeal to you in heaven at this moment that we don't seek to have a king to rule over us. We have a king. His name is Jesus. Lord, we look for righteousness. We want men and women to serve in this country as our elected officials who serve you, who believe in the chosen people that you set forth in Israel, who support Israel, who support the protection of life from womb to tomb. Lord, we know that tomorrow there's a possibility we wake up and what you believe and what you've taught us through your holy scripture might be turned upside down. But Lord, don't let us lose hope, faith, because I know, we know how the story ends. We thank you for the opportunity to live in this land, a land that you didn't choose, but we chose you, God. Let us continue to seek you in everything that we do and say. In the precious name that is above all names, that name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, guys. As I said, there's still time. If you know somebody that you can get to the polls, by all means, get them to the polls. There's still time. Keep the faith. I love you. Jesus loves you more. We will be back on Thursday. It's going to be the best show ever. Hopefully I can get my friend Darren, but don't forget, watch Darren if you have an opportunity. Tune in to Fox News 32 in Chicago. Darren's going to be there. I think it's going to be interesting to see him in that format, but we've got this, folks. We've got this. All right, bro hugs to Berwin Bob. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, everybody that jumped on here today. Peace be with you, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.